In this tutorial, we'll walk through how to set up roster sections, which enable you to pull in multiple class rosters into one Haiku class. Let's say that I'm a teacher who wants to share curriculum for the 6th grade pod between its 3 team rosters, the astronauts, the bookworms, and the geologists. I want to share curriculum because each team has the same curriculum, but they have slightly different schedules. Roster sections lets me do that. I've already created my Haiku class called 6th Grade Central, and now I just need to manage the roster. I do that by going to Manage Class and selecting Roster. The screen that loads will show us any students that are in the class, and it will also show us any sections. Since there are no sections yet, I need to create one, and I do that by clicking Create Sections. This initial screen just tells me some of the advantages of using sections, but since I know that I already want to use them, I'm already ready to click OK. By default, Haiku gives me 2 sections, but I can have up to 10. I'll take what they give me by default and make that the astronauts. I'll take section B and make it the bookworms. And I need to add a new section for the geologists. Now that I have my sections, I'm ready to import my students. And we'll start with the astronauts. Now I have several options when it comes to adding students. I can either add them manually, one at a time, or I can import them. When I'm importing rosters, I have 2 basic options. I can import from another roster, which means that I'm pulling in from another Haiku class or from my student information system, or I can import a spreadsheet or a CSV file. The CSV is really reserved for students who aren't managed in another system, so I want to import from another roster. When I'm importing from another roster, that roster could come from my student information system that the district or the school manages, or it could come from another class that I'm managing or another teacher is managing. I'm going to import a roster from another class that I'm managing. So I type in the class name, find the appropriate year, and click the search button. In the search results then, I find the class that I want to import, and I click the import button. Now when I'm importing from another class, I have yet 2 more options. I can either link the roster to the other class, which means that that other class will always control my new roster, or I can do a one-time import from the other class, which means that the students will be imported directly into my new class, and then I can manage the class separately from here. Since I want the original class to always control the roster so that new students are added whenever that other class gets a new student, or they're removed when the other class removes a student, I'm going to leave them linked. So when I'm ready, I click the Continue button. The page that loads tells me which students are going to be imported into my new class, and this is just simply for my review. The list looks correct, and so I go ahead and click Import Students. Once I've clicked Import Students, the resulting screen shows me the section that I just imported to, the astronauts, and shows me all of the students that have been imported. Now if I'm ready to import students to the other 2 sections, I can do that by going to Manage Sections, and then again I see the bookworms and the geologists. So let's go ahead and import again to the bookworms. So I click Import Students, and again I have my 2 options of importing from another roster or importing from a spreadsheet. And here we can see that we're importing students to the section Bookworms. Again, I'm going to import from another roster. This time, I'll choose my class Around the World in 80 Days. And I click Search to find that course. And I can see that there are 2 courses in the system that have that title, so I want to choose the one that I am teaching. Again, I have the option of linking to that course's roster so that that roster always manages that of my new class in 6th grade Central, or I can import the roster as a one-time import and manage my new roster separately. And again, I'm seeing which students will import to my new roster into the bookworms, and that looks good, so I click Import Students. And once again, we're back on this page that shows us which students have been imported into the bookworms. Now that I have 2 of the 3 roster sections populated, let's take a look and see what that does on our class page. When I'm viewing any of the pages, I have the option to filter it so that I can see only what's available to certain sections, and I do that by clicking this drop-down in the upper right-hand corner. And here I can see all of the sections I have in this class. That drop-down menu is available only to me as a teacher. It's not available to my students or their parents. Now when I add an assignment, I can add it for all of my rosters or any number of them. And I start by entering the details just like I always would. Because this assignment is only for 2 of my 3 roster sections, I want to make sure that it's not published for all of them. I do that by unchecking this box, and then I can see I can set no due date, or I can set a due date for all of the roster sections, or for the different ones as individual sections. In this case, the assignment's only for the astronauts and the bookworms, so I uncheck geologist, and this means that the geologists won't see this assignment when they log in. For the bookworms, they're on a different schedule, so I give them a different due date. Their assignment is due 2 days later. I'm allowing them to turn this in via the Dropbox, and that's all I want to do other than showing the assignment in the blocks. When I'm finished, I click the Save button. I can see that my assignment is successfully saved, and now when I go to the home page, I will see that assignment in the block. In this case, I'm looking at the bookworms, but if I switch to the geologists, that assignment will disappear because it's not for them. And that's really it for roster sections.